So the 83,000, they have said they're going to talk to Congress about that. They're going to look for ways to pull back, and there's going to be some discussion. But based on what you've seen with those probationary employees, those first 2,400, and the lack of information you've gotten about who they are and just how that was, do you have faith that this administration is going to really work with you and sort of think through all the steps of what this might do if they cut that much?
I don't think that they're thinking about veterans first. They're not asking the question, what is good for our veterans? They're looking to what is going to look good for them and the politics that they're playing. They want to hold up some sort of pelt. Look, we cut this many jobs today. Look, we're saving you all this money. But caring for our veterans really shouldn't be rooted in how much money we're saving the taxpayer. The taxpayer does not begrudge that we are taking care of veterans whose bodies have been mangled by war, or who are suffering from PTSD, or who need extra mental health care, and we're able to get them quick health care by mental health care by the fact they just call up a 988 number, press 1, and are connected to a counselor who will get them care and don't have to worry about the bill. This is going to take staffing. This is going to take spending of money, and the taxpayer doesn't begrudge that. And this really should not be DOGE should not be. The DOGE mentality should not be what's driving policy at VA.
So what VA officials have said, what Secretary Collins has said, is that yes, there's a lot of resources. Yes, we're still going to try and do all these things, but we can be more efficient with this money. We can be more efficient with our staff. Is that an unfair place to start from?
Totally. Well, I don't mind these questions about being more efficient and more effective, but I don't think this first 2,400 probationary employees, it was probationary employees because they were the easiest to fire. And they were just firing them willy-nilly. I don't see any evidence that they did a study. I mean, Mr. Billionaire Elon Musk and his DOGE folks, I mean, they're not following the kinds of practices that are done in corporate America, where if a corporation needs to downsize its workforce, they're going to spend months studying that. They're going to be surgical about where they cut. They don't want to harm the company's mission. And they're not going to do it in a way that puts undue hardship on those employees. They're not going to say, oh, we're going to fire you because we're going to claim that why we're firing you is because of your performance, so that you don't get any unemployment insurance. That's what happened to these probationary employees. They were told they were being fired because of their performance, when in fact we know that these employees were fired just because they were easy to fire. And I had, Tracy Therrett, who's, I forget her title, but she works in human services, personnel services at VA, had her before the committee. She thought she was going to testify on a bill that ironically the Republican bill that would have made it easier to fire people at VA. She wasn't expecting me to have noticed that she was the one that signed all the memos that fired the people. And I asked her, I said, Ms. Therrett, did you actually, what she said in the memo, she said, you're being dismissed because your performance.
Well, they said there was a cause.
There was a cause. It was your poor performance, or it's a performance-related firing, in so many words. And I said, did you make sure that everyone who got sent that memo, that you checked their personal files and actually their performance reviews indicated that this was the reason? And she wasn't able to answer that question. And the answer was no, that they hadn't done that. It was a very rushed process. Their main impetus wasn't to look out for the veteran. Their main purpose was to fire as many people as easily as they could, and the probationary employees were that. They're gonna attempt to go after what's called a reduction in force, and the reduction in force is an analysis of like saying that we have we don't have enough money, or we're cutting this or that, and they can reduce the force. That's a whole process they have to go through. I would expect that the secretary would be upfront and explain all of this to us. I have low expectations that will happen. They've been very opaque so far. We've asked plenty of questions, sent plenty of communication to the secretary about these firings. So we've had, as I said, people that were involved in helping veterans get connected to emergency health care. That whole, critical support people who support the counselors on the telephone call for these veterans calling on the hotline, they were cut. The people they have a second person who listens on the line to be able to communicate to the first responders in case we need to get a first responder to that veteran, wherever that veteran is calling. Those are the people that got cut. The DOGE people were looking at lists very superficially. They cut people who they thought, that wouldn't be noticed, but they weren't thinking about the veteran.
So you mentioned the hearing, that the legislative hearing where
Yeah.
you brought up these issues with the VA officials. I know you've expressed some frustration that there haven't been more oversight hearings, that we haven't seen the Republican side sort of launch into some of these. I know that the Senate Democrats, the Democrats on the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee just announced that they're going to be holding some shadow hearings to try and hit some of these issues. You're in the minority right now. What can you do to highlight these issues, to put up some opposition to the things that you think are wrong? I mean, beyond just...
Well, I think we can do I think the Senate is doing a great thing by doing a shadow hearing. I think we'll be definitely watching what they're doing, and we'll supplement on our side a similar shadow hearings where we call our own witnesses and we provide to the public, raise the issues of how we hold, this department, the secretary, accountable. We can also send letters, request information. We can do Freedom of Information Act types of letters to get certain information. They're working for the public. They're working for the taxpayer. There are laws in place that allow us to get information. I can request information directly from certain individuals, both in and out of government. If they refuse to answer, I can raise the level of concern by asking the chairman to issue a subpoena. Let's have a vote on a subpoena.